Helping you find great things to see and do in the Greater Blue Mountains, this is the Ask Ros Blue Mountains podcast.
Welcome to episode 11 of the Ask Ros Blue Mountains podcast. In this episode I speak with Troy Hovenden, the Reptile Bloke, about what to do when you find a snake in your roof in winter. I started off by asking Troy, just where do snakes go during winter?
Well, they basically just find a nice, secure place to hide out. They don't really hibernate as such, but they do this thing called brumation, which I'm sure we'll talk about a bit more. But so they'll go into places like hollow logs. They'll go under rocks, rock crevices, and in roof spaces as well. So basically anywhere they can find a nice, secure place where there's not a high likelihood that they're going to be disturbed. Pretty much, that's about that's about how it goes.
So in your house, the potential is that a householder could inadvertently disturb a snake that's in their state of brumation, as you said. So in the event of it being disturbed, how active would it be reacting to that disturbance?
Well, they initially they wouldn't be very active at all. They will most likely be quite cold, and they sort of, if you uncover them, oftentimes if there's earthworks happening, or if people are up in the roof, like last year I had a case in the middle of winter where some people were replacing the insulation in their roof, and they stumbled upon some green tree snakes, common tree snakes, and I came out to remove them. I ended up finding one. The others took off, but so that can happen. But yeah, they're usually they're pretty slow to begin with, and if that does happen, I would recommend just leave them alone, let them be. Don't try and pick them up or move them yourself. If they do have to be moved, call someone who knows what they're doing. And yeah, if you can leave them there, that's the best thing. But I mean, if you're doing earthworks or replacing your insulation or something like that, then obviously the snake has to be moved for its own safety, and anyone else's, depending on the species. So yeah, that's what I would say to that.
So when a snake decides that it's time to bed down for winter, does it do any preparation beforehand, or is it just simply crawl into a spot and curl up?
Yeah, so in a way they do. They go off their food to start with. So as the weather's cooling down, so they'll start to notice the nighttime temperatures dropping. And so, you get that time we had recently where the nighttime temperatures drop, but the daytime temperatures still, you get nice warm days. So it's at that point when the snakes will start to go off their food. They clear out their whole digestive system. So their whole digestive system will be empty, because what will happen if they were to continue eating right up until winter time and then go to sleep or go into their brumation, any food that is in their stomach or in their digestive system at all will basically rot inside of them, and they'll die because it will go bad from the inside, and it'll poison them from the inside. So yeah, so they go off their food, and then once the weather cools down enough, they go into hiding, and they find a nice secure place to hide out, and then they basically stay there most of the time. And if you get a nice warm day in winter, they'll pop their head out and have a bit of a look around, and may have a drink or a bit of a bask for a while, and then they'll go back to where they were hiding again.
So during their period of brumation, do they eat at all?
No, they don't eat at all so right now it's June. So all the snakes around here, anywhere, like we're not in any tropical climate or anything, in this part of the country certainly, all snakes will be completely off their food by now, and they won't eat till, say, maybe September.
That's extraordinary. So you've mentioned this word brumation a few times. How does it differ from hibernation?
So brumation is very similar, and sometimes, people will just call it hibernation, and sometimes I just go with it. But basically, brumation is where it's not a complete hibernation. So things like bears and other mammals in colder parts of the world will hibernate. They literally go into a den and they go to sleep and they don't wake up for 3-4 months or something like that. Whereas reptiles, their metabolism and their heart rate and all that sort of thing will slow down, but it doesn't completely, they don't completely stop altogether. So like I said before, they will, on a warm day, they'll still pop their head out. They'll come out for a bit of a bath, maybe have a drink. They won't eat anything. But then, they'll go back pretty soon after. They won't stay out for too long. And so, that's pretty much the difference. It's basically like a semi-hibernation, I guess you could say.
So this applies to all the snakes we have in the Blue Mountains?
Yes. All snakes in Australia, I would say. Yeah, I'd say all snakes in Australia. Possibly, I don't think there's any, I could be wrong, but I don't think there's even any snakes or reptiles in the world who would truly hibernate. I could be wrong on that, but basically for reptiles, we call it brumation, because I would say certainly the general rule is that reptiles brumate, they don't hibernate.
So when they come out of their brumation, are they likely to be more aggressive than when they went in?
No, they won't be more aggressive. They'll be looking for a feed, and in a lot of cases they'll be looking for a mate. But they're no more or less aggressive. If you go and pick one up, they're going to defend themselves regardless. But they're certainly not going to go out of their way to hurt anyone, just like any other time. So, I have noticed that in the winter, though, carpet pythons, I don't know about other species, but certainly carpet pythons, they tend to be a little bit more docile when it is cooler. And I think I would imagine it's because they just don't have the energy to really put up much of a fight. So they'll just they'll tolerate you a little bit more, because sometimes you'll have I've got a couple of captive carpets at home that ordinarily, they'll want to bite your face off if you upset them. But in winter time, they just become puppy dog tame, and it's because they just don't want to fight. They're just too cold, and they'd rather just be left alone. And unless you really, really upset them, they're not really going to do much.
During their brumation period, is this the ideal time for a property owner who encounters a snake to give you a call and say, Troy, come and relocate the snake?
Well, they can if they really want to. If they have a snake there and it's in a situation where they can't allow it to stay, then certainly. But there's a bit of a dilemma with me as a snake catcher and looking out for the welfare of the animal. And because if I was to grab any snake from during their brumation period and relocate them, it's almost certain death for that animal, because it's not gonna be able to find a place.
Oh, really?
Because it's already the middle of winter, they're not going to be able to find a place to hide quick enough. They'll be searching around for goodness knows how long, and they'll probably be out, late at night, and they'll be out in the open. They'll be cold, and a fox or a cat or something is going to come along and grab it and kill it. So that's the only trouble with relocating snakes during winter is finding a suitable place for them to hide. I'd have to think really carefully about where I was to let it go, and I wouldn't be able to. Ordinarily, I don't anyway move them too far from where I find them. But it's certainly it is a bit more of a dilemma to try and, because whenever you release an animal, you want to increase, you want the best chance of its survival as possible. And so
it sounds like the best answer is for the house owner to just be aware the snake is there and stay out of his way.
Yeah, basically. So unless, like I say, unless they're doing something like renovating or renovating their garden or whatever, and they've dug up some sandstone and there's a snake that's under it, and it's like the process is happening and the snake has to be moved, then so be it. But if it's in their retaining wall, or if it's by a pond, or in the middle of winter, it's not going to hurt anybody. It's just going to be out, it's just going to be hiding out. It's not going to want to pick a fight with anybody, certainly. So they're just too cold to be worried about that sort of thing. They just want to be left alone to curl up and sleep.
Now, Troy, I appreciate your time today, and this is an interesting topic. It follows on our last discussion about what you do when you encounter a snake in the bush. And if somebody has a snake issue that they just want to talk to you about, how do they go about that?
So they can always call us on our business number, which is on the website. They can always go to the website, or they can contact me through Facebook Messenger. So all those sort of ways, they can always contact me through that. And I'm always happy to answer any questions or talk to people if they're worried or concerned about anything.
Great, Troy. I appreciate your time and thanks for your wealth of knowledge.
No worries. I'll do my best. Thanks for having me.
Well, that's it for episode 11. Be sure to check out our website at www.askros.com.au and the Ask Ros Blue Mountains Facebook page. Thanks for listening.